Welcome to Living Once Twice, a lifestyle design and personal adventure podcast. My name is Justin. Come with me as I'm here to help you chart your course for creating the fulfilling life you desire. Join me as every Wednesday we'll dive into the inspiring guest stories, remarkable science, and useful strategies to help you create the momentum you need to take action towards designing your dream life. Remember, your dream life is waiting for you. It's time to go for it. You deserve it. Greetings all, and welcome to Living Once Twice. Thank you for tuning into today's episode. I am very excited to bring on our very first guest, the remarkable Terri Lomax. Now, Terri is a globally recognized podcaster, speaker, and brand strategist, and author of the book, How to Glow Up as You Grow Up. So, Terri also empowers entrepreneurs to leverage their social media and personal branding to grow their audience, impact, and bank accounts. Terri, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Justin, thank you so much for having me. I am fantastic and I'm so excited for us to dive into this conversation.
Awesome, and very excited to have you. And just for context for everyone to know, I was very fortunate. I got to take advantage of Terry's podcasting class. So, all of you out there, if you are looking to get into the podcasting universe, Terry is legit. So, please, definitely check Terry and her class out. Now, Terry, as I got the opportunity to learn, you have a lot of insight to share, especially regarding how to embrace failing forward and really leaning into the uncomfortable path when it comes to following one's dreams. So, I'm going to just start off and kick us off by, can you take me back, and walk us through your journey, as well as what was the turning point for you when you realized the route you were going wasn't fulfilling?
Yes, you know what, Justin? So, just for to give your listeners a bit of context, I had a really rough upbringing, raised in an abusive household where I was physically and verbally abused. My family was homeless at a certain point, and I just faced so much adversity. And oftentimes, I didn't know what my future was going to look like, and it felt like in my journey, literally every time I took a step forward, something kicked me back 5 steps, and so
Mm,
life was really, really rough, but I had so many great mentors and good Samaritans and people that were around, like my pastors and school advisors and mentors, and I realized very early on the power of having a vision and the power here's the kicker right here, Justin, the power of faith and seeing the thing in your mind before you see it in reality. So I was always a dreamer,
mm,
very much, you got to see it. My pastor used to always say, you have to see it up here before you see it in reality. And I was like, oh,
mhm.
so I used to just close my eyes and dream. I remember being in the one bedroom shelter with my family of 7 in Chester, Pennsylvania, and I would be on my bunk bed writing out, and it makes me emotional every time, Justin, writing out literally the things that I'm doing today, 8 plus years, maybe 10 plus years ago. And so I would write down, I want to be a best-selling author. I want to, be wealthy. I want to make an impact on the world. I want to write books. I want to do this and that. And I didn't know how those things were going to happen, but I saw it in my mind and I said, okay, I'm going to speak it because my situation right now isn't too good. And so when you talk about the turning point for me, it was when I was in grad school and I had done what everyone told me to do. I went to school, I got good grades, I got a good job, and I had a nice little setup. I had my own apartment, I had my own car, I was making money, and I was just like, wow, I did all this and I am not happy. Like this is not what I want to do. There has to be more to life
Mhm.
than this, right? And then just paying back these student loans. And so that's when I began to one, face myself. It was the first time in life where it was just me and me. I didn't have any roommates. I wasn't in a relationship, and I just had to face my stuff. So looking in the mirror and, really dealing with all of the trauma that I had experienced. And that for me was the turning point to finding a life of fulfillment.
Wow, and that was really powerful what you shared, and once again, those of you out there, if you haven't had the chance yet, please check out Terry's book, How to Glow Up as You Grow Up, because she really does talk about some really personal experiences and overcoming that. And Terry, to kind of hit on what you were talking about with all those check boxes, this checkbox lifestyle that I know very well, go to college, get your degree, get the job, and you kind of settle in. when you kinda hit that moment, you knew that there was a turning point, like, how did you and you talk about this manifesting part, like, how did you get clarity on it? You talked about vision board. Were there other things that you did to really help yourself, like, clarify what was next or what you did want when you knew that that current route wasn't fulfilling to you?
Mhm. To be honest, Justin, let me just point out a few things. One, I'm an overthinker, okay? So we're just gonna put that out there. I'm an overthinker. I am a recovering perfectionist. Also, I am a recovering control freak. So I say all that to say, I say all that for a reason. I say all that to say on this journey, I wanted to know, like I desperately I used to, ask God, like, okay, show me the way. Because I'm the kind of person, don't just tell me that I need to go out there and, I don't have a map, right? Or a
Mhm,
GPS on what exactly I'm doing. But that's not how life works, right? You just got to go out there, you got to take the leap, and the net will appear. And so I think for me, I always try to map things out to a T. But I think the most powerful thing that I've learned being a recovering perfectionist, recovering control freak,
mhm,
and this person that overthinks so much is to kind of let go. And I think for me now in hindsight, they say hindsight is 2020. In
right,
hindsight, Justin, I realized that all of the experiences I had, they were so needed, right? Even the failure, even the rejection, it all they taught me lessons that I now use today to flourish in the state that I'm in right now. And so I think about, you say manifesting your vision. I think that to get clarity, I think it's really important to understand your why. Like, what are you doing this for, right? Because I know people and I've even experienced, I've had moments, I'm blessed to have like great success in certain areas. And I've realized, you know what? That doesn't define me, right?
mhm,
I was living in a one-bedroom shelter with my family of 7, and I was depressed, and I also had an experience in life years later where I was living in a $1,000,000 loft where I was on vacation, and I was still depressed. So I was the same exact person having the same exact experiences, and
mhm,
despite having degrees and books and all these things, those low vibrations, those low feelings, they still came up for me and feeling unfulfilled, right? And so it's like, well, dang, I thought that if I achieved this and did that, it would happen. So for me, I think I am so fueled now by a greater purpose. And that purpose is not tied to a job or a project per se, but it's sort of my life's work. So for me, it's really empowering my community and leaving a legacy and
mhm.
creating an impact in the world. So the thing about that is when you have a why that's greater than yourself, it can look so different. So you're not married to a career, you're not married to the title, you're not married to, how it looks, but more so what is this opportunity going to allow you to do and how will it allow you to serve?
That is interesting what you talk about is for people being so married to, whether it's their career or the 9 to 5 and these things and kind of those mental blocks that they have of like, "This is all I know, even though I have a vision for myself that is bigger than this and I wanna pursue something," but there's whether it's, you talked about setbacks, there might be mental blocks, self-doubt that creeps in. I guess what advice do you have for people when they're dealing with those kind of mental blocks where they're like, "I wanna take this leap of faith, but I'm scared to, or because of my socioeconomic background, or because of, traumas that I've been through, I just don't feel confident in, I guess, taking that leap."
That's a really good question, Justin. Let me think. I would say I think baby steps. I think baby
Mhm,
steps are key. I would also say for me, volunteering has been great as well. I think, I remember being in grad school, I wanted to be a motivational speaker. And I think sometimes people, they want to start out on a new journey and get paid right away. But I did so much for free and it allowed me to sort of try on different careers and try
mhm,
on different experiences to see if it was really a good fit. Like I knew 2 millionaires when I was in grad school and I had a chance to shadow them because I thought that I wanted to do what they did. But when I went behind the curtain and had a chance to shadow them and work for them and so into someone else's vision, it allowed me to see, oh, wait. I thought I wanted this, but I actually don't.
mhm.
Like, I don't need to be the big boss making all the money and, running things. I actually wanna live a pretty simple life, and it took me to have those experiences to understand what I really wanted. So I think when it comes to, having the confidence to pursue a certain journey, I think taking baby steps is really key. I think also understanding that failure is not bad. Failure is our friend. And when I look back on the moments where I failed, those were oftentimes my greatest lesson. And I often, and Justin, you probably heard me say this before, but I often, say to myself and students, would you really want to go from the first grade to college? No, absolutely
Mhm,
not, right? Because you need each of the levels. You need the second grade to matriculate to the third grade, right? And well, some people skip a grade, but you know what I'm saying.
mhm,
And some people, everything. It's like playing a video game. I used to love video games when I was younger, and you need everything in level one in order to succeed in level five, right? Because you have some of the same lessons. And so I think for me, that taught me that it's all about the journey and not necessarily even the destination, right? Because
mhm.
oftentimes we get to the destination and then there's a new milestone, right? It's like, okay, now I'm on to the next thing. So when you think about it, it really is all about the journey. And if we are to look around in those moments when we are failing, we can take lessons and bring them with us for the next phase.
And I love to talk about failing because that's one of the things that you taught me, which was like failing forward and getting comfortable failing forward. And so, can you share, with the listeners, one of those another one of those experiences for you that really kind of taught you the value in that failing forward?
Oh yeah, let me think. I have so much failure, Justin. I'm trying to think of what I can talk about. Let's see. I was in a pageant before, and I didn't place at all. I didn't win nothing, not even Miss Positivity. I think was one of the awards. And I was like, me? I'm like Miss Positive. No, didn't win that.
Mhm,
So failed at that. There were different business goals that I've set that I failed. I mean, I've had so much failure. I remember moving to New York after grad school for a job, and I was so excited about it, and I stayed there for I was there for a few months and realized it wasn't a good fit, but I tried to stick it out and ended up
mhm,
moving to Maryland, and I had 2 degrees. I had my bachelor's and my master's, and I couldn't find work. So I ended up working at an airport shuttle place with, like, college students, and I had to humble myself, and I just had to do what I had to do. So I've had a lot of failure and rejection in life, and I think I'm trying to think of one instance, Justin, like one situation that may have taught me. I'm trying to think of one particular situation. What was that,
Yeah, I
Justin?
was gonna say, like, well, even in, for example, the podcasting journey, I mean, you did say, I think it was like about a year and a half ago, you decided to go on and do this podcasting journey yourself with your partner in crime. And just wondering for you, like, even in the creation of that, and was there any setbacks or failure that you had that once again reinforced that, hey, okay, I might have taken a leap on faith and hit a stumbling block, but I just gotta keep putting one foot in front of the other.
Yes, I would say when we first started podcasting, and even sometimes today because we're virtual, but our audio just wasn't the best, right?
Mhm,
Our numbers at first, we just didn't really, like, we felt like it wasn't growing as fast. There was also an instance where we had a guest on, and the guest had pointed out that I said something problematic. And so, oh gosh, we had to make a decision on how to handle that. So we ended up inviting the guest back. And, I had a
mhm,
chance to listen to the guest perspective. And so, yeah, there were definitely points of failure there. And I think for me, like technology, oftentimes I'm pretty much self-taught when it comes to a lot of the tech things. And so there are so many times where I just want to throw my laptop out the window and I'm so frustrated. And I've been on
mhm,
the verge of tears by, like, I've almost deleted my whole blog and website. I've just messed things up and I've had to, like, call my hosting provider. So there's been so many phases in the journey where I wanted to give up or throw in the towel. But for me, I feel like, many of us, we've come too far. Like, to give up now, it
mhm,
means that everything else was in vain. You know what I mean? And so I think for me, that motivates me to keep pushing. But then I also realize that if I can nail this now and if I can just do something bad 10 times, right? Like, do something not very good 10 times, you're
mhm,
going to be better on the 11th time. Like, that's just how things work. If you put your mind to it, I'll give you an example, Justin. You're just starting a podcast, right? Let's say you had a lot of anxiety about, your first episode and you're like, "Oh, I don't know. I don't know if I want to do it." And then you're like, "You know what? I'm just going to do it." So you do your first episode, you give it your all, you do your best, and you are coachable and you are, thinking critically and you're like, "Okay, how can I improve this next time?" If you show up 10 times at least and you continue to try to do your best and you compare the first time and the 11th time, it's going to be way better than if you didn't start at all, right? I think so many people get
Mm,
stuck at the starting point and never take the leap when you're like, I want to say, boo, failure is part of this process. Like if you saw, Justin, my speeches from when I first started speaking, it was horrible. It was so embarrassing. Like I would probably cry if YouTube was out then because it was so bad. But I had to go
mhm.
through that to get better. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. And so it also seems like it was a mix of like experience that has kind of helped prepare you whenever, those stumbling blocks come, but also the way that you prepared your mind. And so one of the things that we talk about on this show is the importance of mindset, of developing, there's a fixed mindset and there's a growth mindset. And a lot of what you've shared resonates with the growth mindset of understanding that you might not be where you need to be in terms of being a pro today, but if you take the steps, you put in the work, you can get there. So, you know, how else did you develop that mindset? Did it come from outside of experiences? Are there certain like books that really resonated with you that help you develop that mindset, or even people in your life that once again helped you develop that growth mindset that you have?
For sure. I would definitely say that it took a lot of first, it was a very personal relationship. Like it took a lot of me just being by myself and with myself, because of my upbringing and the things that I've been through. I had a lot of like I had low self-esteem and I did not like being by myself. And I found that when I was by myself, I was able to sort of reprogram my mind and I began to really monitor my thoughts. I think sometimes if we're just
Mhm.
mindful and monitor our thoughts without judgment, we'll notice that some of us we say a lot of bad things about ourselves, and
Right.
sometimes I post on social media, I posted a status or something like, if someone were to hear the internal dialogue that you're having with yourself about yourself, what would they say? What would they
Mm.
think? And for me, it'd be so embarrassing. I was like, I Justin, can I cuss on your podcast?
You gotta be 18
Okay.
years old, so you go
Okay,
for it.
good. Okay, perfect. I was gonna say, I used to talk so much shit about myself. You'd be like, "Damn, give her a break." It was so
Mm.
bad, and so for me, that was one of the first steps. It's like reprogramming my mind. So I read a lot of books about self-esteem. One book that I really, really loved was, 7 Habits for Highly Effective People. I believe that's either,
Oh,
I
yeah.
believe it's
Stephen
yes,
Covey.
Stephen Covey, mhm.
Yes.
Stephen Covey. I would say also Abundance Now by Lisa Nichols. Um, anything Les Brown is one of my favorite motivational
Mhm.
speakers. Anything Les Brown, Iyanla Van Zant. Those are just some of the good books to start with. But I used to be an avid reader. I'm super busy now, so I'm more of an audiobook person. But I
Yes.
read a lot of books, Justin, to reprogram my mind because if you don't reprogram your mind and you have this old software there, anytime you have these updates, right, or these new information that's trying to come in, it's difficult for it to penetrate that system, right? So you have to rehaul the whole system. And so that's what I had to do. And so now my mind, I mean, if you heard the internal dialogue I have now, it's so lovely. Like there are days when I'm just like, okay, we could do a little better. But I mean, compared to how it was, Justin, it's like a brand new person. I have so much respect for myself on a personal level when no one else is around that now influences the way that I show up. I'm the one giving myself pep talks instead of putting myself down, and I think that is so key when it comes to our mental.
Mm. And I love that you kinda talk about just, that growth, and I would almost say kind of the healing of that some of us need to do because of these negative, I call it the negative committee that we have running in our mind from experiences from our past and things of that nature. And one of the things I definitely would love for you to share with the listeners, which I think we may resonate, is you talk in the book too about the power of therapy and how it could also be kind of a form of healing. And you know, I guess, is there anything too you wanna share about how that's also been a part of your journey in terms of, like, manifesting your dream life and what you've brought together? And like I said, the role that has played for you?
Yeah, you know what's funny, Justin? Excuse me, I actually didn't start going to therapy. Like I didn't try therapy until I was maybe in grad school. So I was in my early 20s, which was so mind-boggling to me because I'm like, I've been through all this stuff. Like all the trauma had stopped by then. So I was like, dang, I'm
Mhm.
kind of late getting to therapy. But I also grew up hearing things like therapy is for crazy people, right? Or therapy is
Right.
for white people. Yeah, like
Yes.
you hear those things growing up and you either take it on and and I guess for me, I didn't really see therapy as something that was for me, but I think when I began to face my stuff in grad school, I was like, you know what, let me try it out and see how it was. And so I will say therapy is like dating, right? Like anything else that's
Mhm.
dealing with people, you want to find a good fit. And so I did have about maybe it took me about 3 tries with therapy to find a therapist that was a really good fit. So that's another thing I would definitely recommend is like don't think it's going to be a one and done. Really try to find a good fit because that'll make all the difference. And then when I found a good fit, Justin, here's the other part. It took me about a year to really go into therapy and talk about the real shit. Like I was like, oh,
Mhm.
work was this, work was that. I started getting into the deep, dark stuff a year after because I really wanted to make sure I felt comfortable. And I never said a lot of these things out loud. So when I began to free myself and share those deep, dark secrets and things that I'd experienced, that was so freeing for me. And so I will say therapy is great. I'm probably going to do it for the rest of my life, which is so crazy to hear me say because when I first started, I thought it was like this deadline driven experience. Like, okay, I start here, end here, and I thought people who said they do it like for life, that didn't make sense to me. But now that I'm so deeply entrenched into professional development, personal development, and therapy, I realized that you know we're human beings, we're evolving,
Mhm.
and things are gonna continue constantly come up, right? Like, as we evolve into different beings, like, we're gonna have new challenges, and so to have someone there with me every step of the way, I mean, it feels like a secret weapon in my back pocket of life, right? I don't have to bog down my girlfriends when we're chatting to talk about all the things I'm going through because I have someone that I go to regularly and I can
Mhm.
chat with them about that to free myself to be available to other people in new ways, right? So I still might talk to my girls about stuff, but I have this scheduled meeting that allows me to really free myself and not be a burden to other people. That's another thing too.
Yeah. No, I'm a huge advocate, even myself, I take advantage of therapy and I tell individuals, "Hey, it's a great tool to try, especially once again for those that maybe have mental blocks or certain things that they need additional assistance with overcoming." And Terry, you talked about friends, and, you're specifically you're talking about your girlfriends. Just curious for you, you use this metaphor of the pitcher representing kind of that support system and the people who, you could tell me if I got this correct, like nurture you in your journey. And my question for you is, what would you say the role of community has been once again in your journey to manifesting your dream life and all that you've accomplished up to this point?
I think community has been extremely important. I think for as long as I can remember, I've always been part of a community. And so for me, being raised in church, that was one of the first communities.
Mhm.
And there were two churches that I attended when I was younger that were so influential to me. I mean, I just had really great pastors and leadership, and it wasn't really the typical like church feel, I want to say. They were really people invested. And so we talked about entrepreneurship and sometimes even like politics, right? Just to learn about, being active. We talked about all kinds of things, but my pastors were also very big on vision. And so for me, having a supportive community and people and mentors who saw something in me that I did not see in myself, that was really important, especially during that phase of my life when I was struggling with my self-esteem and didn't really know who I was. And, being able to Lisa Nichols, one of my other favorite motivational speakers, she has this analogy that she speaks of where she says, sometimes you have to take off your shades or your glasses and put on the glasses of someone else who can actually see the vision. And so I really depended
Mm.
on my pastors for that, where I didn't see shit for myself. So I was like, okay, let me put these down, right? Sometimes it was rough. And so I would put on theirs and they saw me writing books and saw me speaking and they would, put me on stage for Youth Sunday and things like that.
Mhm.
And because they saw something in me that I didn't see yet in myself, that community really inspired me to reach beyond. And so that was extremely important for me.
Oh, I love that, and I hope others understand that too, the importance of, yes, there's a certain part that comes out of you needing to, be accountable for your future and your actions, and once again, designing your dream life as we talk about in this podcast. But as Stephen Covey explains in that book you mentioned earlier, Terry, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, it's interdependent, this world, so we need others to lean on and support us and vice versa. Now, for our next segment here, it's called our Each One, Teach One section. These are just rapid fire questions that I got for you, Terry. And, you've already been dropping a lot of insight, but I've got a couple questions for you. And then hopefully whatever the first thing that just come to mind is you'll share any questions. You ready for the rapid fire hot seat, as I'll call it?
Oh, yes, I'm always nervous about rapid fire because I'm like, "Wait, I wanna change my answer," but I'm with it. Let's do it. I'm
All right,
down.
you got this. You got this. So, when you first started your career into speaking and being a brand strategist, if you could go back, what is one piece of advice you would have given yourself?
Ooh, one piece of advice I would have given myself when I first started my brand would be lean into clarity and stop trying to be cute and clever because my first blog name, I think, was a little too cute and clever. It meant a lot to me, but it
Mhm.
didn't really click with my audience as much as I wanted it to.
Ooh, wait, can we dive a little deeper into that? Do you mind sharing what that
Sure.
was and what I guess what that taught you?
Yeah, so my blog, which I love, it'll be my baby forever. I retired it last year. It's called Mocha Girls Pit Stop.
Mhm,
And for me, when I first started, I didn't really know about branding like that, like I do now. And so I just thought, mocha, brown, Mocha Girls, Pit Stop, and I had this, like, cartoon image, and I thought it was cute. It was cute for me, and it did have an impact, like, people followed it, but it never really took off the way that I wanted it to. It didn't
mhm,
take off like my podcast, for instance, and so for me, I think there was an opportunity for me to just dive deeper into the branding of that and really get crystal clear on who is my target market and cater to them specifically. Yeah, so I think I could have just done a better job with that overall. I kind of felt like I was a little all over the place with it and could have aligned more with like the imagery and the title.
and when you say your target audience, there's a unique acronym that you have. Is you willing to share with the audience of kinda something that they can kinda hang on to when thinking about target audience?
Yes, absolutely. So when it comes to podcasting, in my course, I talk about your illa farilla. And Justin, you know what the illa
Mm,
farilla is, your ideal loyal listener avatar. So it's basically, many of us have heard about the customer avatar, the target market
mhm,
avatar. The illa farilla avatar, or illa farilla is just in general the person that's going to listen to your podcast. Who's your ideal listener? And we talk about in the course how you can cater to them specifically, like get crystal clear. Think about, keywords and words they would Google to find you. And so now, Justin, with my podcast, I have so many friends that'll Google podcasts for Black women. And they're like, oh my
mm.
gosh, your podcast just came up first. And I'm like, that's not by mistake. That's all by design, because I know what I'm doing now.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Okay. So our next question, each one teach one, is what habit for you, Terry, has changed your life and manifesting your dream life?
What habit? Okay, the first thing that comes to mind for me is okay, there's a little caveat here. So, the first thing that comes to mind for me is mindset and
Mm,
managing my mindset. That has been so key for me because if you have a negative mindset, it's going to be really hard for you to go far or to, create positive outcomes. And I do want to say, Justin, there's this, you know this, Justin. I'm a very busy person. I'm like a high performer. I do all these things, but I still don't have like a daily routine. And I feel like I've been trying to create a daily routine forever, for
mhm,
years, and it just doesn't click. And so I just want people to know, like, don't feel like you have to be perfect all the time. Like I go through phases. So there are, I'm working project management. And so we have what we call sprints, right? Where I might spend the first 3 weeks of the month grinding out on this content and this project, and then I might take a break off. And so I like don't have any rituals. I don't get up at the same time every day. I don't go to sleep at the same time. Like I feel like a hot mess a lot of times and all over the place,
mhm.
but I still produce really great results. So don't beat yourself up. Be kind to yourself when it comes to habits.
Thank you on that one. Did that. The next question is, what is one thing that you didn't learn in school that needs to be taught? As you look at all the years
Oh,
of schooling that you've gone through, what is one thing that you're like, "No, they need to go back and they need to add this to the curriculum about life?"
to be honest, I have a whole list of things that I should have learned in school because I thought about that over the years. Like I didn't learn this in school, that in school. I will say financial literacy. Okay, like
Mm.
deep financial literacy. How do you balance your checkbook? How do how do you handle stock and equity and all that stuff? Like,
Mm.
come on, like we need to be learning all of that in school. Mortgages, right? How to just, budget, all of that. Some people do learn it in school, but I feel like these should be basic things that everyone should learn in school.
Yeah, I second that. I know they're teaching us, trigonometry and all these other things, but yeah,
Mhm.
use for some of these kind of financial concepts could be so and so important. And our last each one teach one question we got is, Terry, if you had all the resources on the planet, so time, money, people power, what passion project would you bring to life in this world?
Justin, you are all up in my mind. I told you I'm an overthinker. I think about this stuff often. What? So, Justin, look, we would have a whole studio, right? A production studio, and we would produce so just amazing content and documentaries that
Mm,
speak to our community. Like, I just want to do whatever I can do to raise the vibration of our people. Like, that's what I want to do. So I would love to have, educational series for children that really teach them about, conflict resolution and, self-esteem and mindset, and then have something for adults. So like a whole production of just positivity, inspiration, and mindset shifting. That's what we're going to do.
I love it. I love it. That's changing the world right there, one mind at a time, and working on
Yes.
the adults, programming the children. I love it, Terry. So, the last question as we wrap things up here is, just tell the viewers and the listeners out there, like, what's next for you and where can people go to find out more about you and just to learn about your amazingness?
Oh, thank you, Justin. I would say, what's next? It's been a busy year for sure. I think I'm already thinking about book number 2, even though book number 1 just came
Mm,
out, but I just have
okay.
ideas and I'm kind of outlining it, and it'll probably be a lot more, believe it or not, Justin, a lot more raw than the first book, which is kinda weird because I'm sure you're
Mm,
probably like, "Well, the first one was kinda raw," but yeah, I'm thinking the second book is gonna be a bit deeper. And then
mhm.
as far as where to find me, you can find me on social media at Terri Lomax. That's TerriLomax. You can also head on over to terrilomax.com. I have a free podcasting masterclass that you can register for. It's free, nothing to lose. You can click on the pink link at my website, and I have other resources there as well.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, Terry, I once again have to just say thank you, thank you, thank you. I will share this again with our listeners out there. Like they really have no idea how fortunate I feel to have come across you and your amazingness. So I just once again I'm appreciative of you taking the time to join us and join the listeners and really share your inspirational journey, your golden gems of nuggets. So I'm excited that the viewers get to learn as much about you and how to manifest once again the vision that lives inside of them through hearing your story and what you've shared with us today. So just want to thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Justin. It has been such a pleasure, and I am extremely proud of you. Like, you just don't even know how excited I am to be here and to see you just out here doing your thing.
Well, as I like to wrap things up, to all the listeners out there, thank you again for tuning in. Please take the time to go check out Terry, and like I said, you'll learn so much that is going to support you in your journey, especially to designing your dream life. So, reaching out to you all through the time, through the space that separates us, I'd like to thank you for tuning in to Living Once Twice. And remember, your dream life is waiting for you. It's time to go for it because you deserve it. Catch you later on Living Once Twice.